Welcome to the Moviegoers Society podcast brought to you by Nerdtropolis. I'm your host, Sean Tajipour, the mayor of Nerdtropolis. And joining me once again is my co-host, Drew Munhausen, the professional media and movie mastermind. And it looks like he brought a friend or a foe with him. What's going on, Drew?
Hey, Sean, it's good to talk to you again. And I have one simple question for you, and that is, would you like to play a game? As Jigsaw says.
We're doing board games. We're doing killing games. We're doing video games. Sign me up for whatever you got for us.
Yeah, my buddy Jigsaw has accompanied me here. He's really creepy. Like I questioned the decision to have him be my background because he's just like, I don't even like looking at him.
Yeah, and I gotta stare at that thing as we do this
You're welcome.
podcast. But this is amazing, but not really. I'm kind of scared. But on this podcast, we dive into the world of cinema, exploring everything from beloved classics to the latest blockbusters. And we're now on episode 12, which is mind blowing to me. And we got a lot to talk about. But this is super exciting, Drew. Number 12.
That is super exciting. I it feels like we just started this, and now we're in double digits, and let's keep the train moving.
Yeah, we're going to keep going. We're going to talk about some more Fantastic Fest. We're going to jump into Saw Patrol and the creator. But before we get into them, we want to make sure all of you can connect with us online. You can find me on myself and Nerdtropolis on every single social media platform you can think of, at Sean Taj and at Nerdtropolis. And don't forget to visit nerdtropolis.com for your daily dose of movie news, reviews, interviews, and trailers. And Drew, where can they find you when you're not contributing to Nerdtropolis?
Yeah, you can find me at Drew Munhausen on all the different social media platforms, and weekly over at Fresh Out the Podcast, where we talk about TV shows and video games and a bunch of other stuff there too.
Yeah, a lot of good stuff there. And also don't forget to catch up on my podcast, the Nerdtropolis Mayors Presents, where I interview directors and actors and anyone I want to talk to in Hollywood. Got some good ones coming up. I got some directors I'm speaking to, even the director of Pet Sematary, Bloodlines, I got to speak to. So that's super exciting to share with y'all soon. And don't forget to catch up on past episodes of the Moviegoers Society. If this is your first time listening, you got 11 more to catch up on, and they're all great. They're all great. I'm going to tell you, they're all solid. But Drew, you had an extended stay at Fantastic Fest.
I did. I ended up seeing about 24 movies in like 6.5 days, which is a lot, a whole lot. And it kind of fried my brain by the end. But the second half of the festival, I feel like, is a little bit more relaxed than the first half. There's maybe a little bit less people there, but I didn't have as much trouble getting into the screenings that I wanted to get into. I got to see some of the secret screenings and things like that. So it was a really good experience, but definitely by the end, even moviegoers such as us, by the end of a festival, I'm like, I was ready to go home and ready to take a break from the movie theater. Although, yeah, a spoiler for later, I did go back to the movies within 2 days after getting back from the festival. So, but I'll get into that in a little bit.
Yeah, that's a lot of movies, but you got a lot of good stuff. So at Fantastic Fest right now, we got some of your reviews up. We got The Origin, Eileen, and Dogman. And I believe we have the fourth one coming up too. Or we actually have...
And Saw X. We had a Saw X one.
Technically 4 1. So maybe a quick rundown of The Origin, Dogman, and Eileen. You know, films that I don't know if they have release dates yet, but they'll be coming out soon.
Yeah, those were some of the bigger ones I wanted to talk about. I mean, the Origin was a Sony release, and it's like kind of it's a period piece. It's like a prehistoric horror movie, like a tribe that comes to a new land, and then at night, they feel like they're being hunted by someone or something. And I just thought it was really atmospheric, and it was one that I really wanted to talk about after the fact. It's a good question as far as release date. I don't think it officially has any kind of...
Nothing yet on most of these movies. There's a lot of films that were shown at Fantastic Fest. They don't have any set release dates or anything like that, but they'll be coming within at least 12 months, I would say. No more than 12 months. You'll find it in a theater somewhere.
Yeah, I'm looking to see. It just says that it premiered at the BFI London Film Festival. Bleecker Street did acquire the North American rights and are planning a theatrical release at an unspecified date. So we'll see if that's a wide release or if it's a small release. But at some point, it will come out. I I know for a fact that Eileen comes out around the holidays, which actually is a good like holiday vibes movie. That one has Thomas and McKenzie and Anne Hathaway in it, and I really enjoyed it a lot. It's kind of plays. It's a little bit of a slow burn if you like slow burn, not even horror, more thriller. But it just in the third act, it takes a big departure from where the movie's been at before then that I really enjoyed where it went. So I don't want to say more for fear of spoiling. And then Dogman's another one that I don't know when or if it's getting released in the US, but it is Luc Besson's newest film. The director of The Fifth Element and Lucy, and he did Valerian just a few years ago. A little bit of a just a controversial presence in a way, but he did have this premiere as a secret screening at the festival. And I'm not going to lie, Sean, this one was like pretty divisive. And there were a lot of people leaving the festival that it was like one of the least favorite things they saw at the festival. I really liked it. Like was vibing with it and really enjoyed it. Just to keep it quick, it stars Caleb Landry Jones, who is, we're used to seeing him be like pretty perturbed or kooky, strange characters and little unhinged, and he's the lead in this, and he's abused by his father, and he finds solace in dogs, and as he's grown up, he surrounds himself with dogs as he gets along with them better than people, and he ends up using them almost like this movie could almost be viewed as a Batman villain origin story. Like he uses the dogs to do things, whether that's to stop crime from happening or to steal something from someone, different things like that. And but it's a really good character piece, and Caleb Landry Jones is really great in it. So I do think it's worth a watch for his performance and as an interesting story that again could be viewed as like it feels like it would fit alongside the Sony Marvel verse of origin stories they've done of like Morbius and Venom and things, which like Morbius was not good, and there's varying levels of quality there. I thought Dogman was good, so it'd be like a good version of those movies.
That's good. Yeah, this guy, Caleb Landry Jones, he was the voice of Jeff the Robot in Finch, and he's also in X-Men as Banshee, I believe.
That's right. And he's in Get Out. I think he plays the brother of the main girl in that one, and he's been in like 3 billboards outside Ebbing, Missouri. So he's been around. He's been in a lot of things. He's a recognizable face, I think, if you see a lot of movies.
Yeah, I mean that's some good movies, and there's a lot that we saw at Fantastic Fest. Also, I have a review up for Strange Darling that Drew and I both watched, which was really great. Pet Cemetery Bloodlines had their world premiere over there. I mean, Fantastic Fest had so many movies, and you watched 24 of them. That is impressive.
I watched a lot. Yeah, varying degrees of quality, but mostly stuff that I really liked. It's a good platform for first time directors or folks that have kind of interesting ideas for horror and sci-fi, different genre stuff. To gives you a stage to show it to a full theater. And I saw some stuff that like will be released on Shudder in the future, or things like that. So there's a lot there. And then the last night of the festival, well, excuse me, not the last night of the festival. My last night of the festival was Wednesday night. So the last movie I saw was actually the last of the secret screenings, which turned out to be Saw X. So we got
the biggest
to see
movie
that.
too. The biggest movie to be shown at the Fantastic Fest, I think so.
Yeah, I would have debated like maybe the creator, but as we've seen from the box office this past weekend, Saw X did better than the creator. So yeah, I'd say Saw X is the more anticipated, the bigger one from that standpoint.
Yeah, and what they give you, some pair of eyes?
They did, and the eyes were on everybody's seats. Like you gotta, I don't have them near me, or else I'd show them on the camera. But like little plastic eyeballs. And as soon as we saw those, everybody had a pretty good idea of what the movie was going to be. Because if you've seen the promo stuff for Saw X, there's even the poster for it is guy with tubes from his eyes. And there's a scene in the movie where it's basically the game of that segment in the movie is if he doesn't get himself out of this contraption, his eyeballs will literally be sucked from his head. So yeah, pretty harrowing stuff there.
Yeah, and this is Saw X, aka Saw 10, but it really isn't 10. It's the 10th Saw film, but it takes place between 1 and 2. So it's like Saw 1.5.
Right.
And tell us more about that, Drew.
Yeah, so it's kind of crazy. There have been 10 Saw entries, believe it or not. The first like 6 or 7 of them came out literally one a year from 2004 to like 2010. And then there was a gap and we got Jigsaw in 2017. And then we got Spiral from the Book of Saw in 2021, released during the pandemic, and now we have Saw X. So there's the naming convention, they had 1 through 6 and then 3D, Jigsaw, Spiral, and now Saw X. They've returned to the numbering convention. So that being said, it's been around for a while. The producers were at the screening and even they said, spoilers for Saw 3. They were like, probably not the best idea to kill off your horror villain in your third movie, because that's what they did in the Saw franchise. Is they killed Jigsaw, played by Tobin Bell. John Kramer is his name in the film. And so the rest of the movies he's had like a successor that's done things. There have been a lot of flashbacks that tell stories of John Kramer. They've just had to get creative to varying degrees of success with their storytelling. And so Saw X, they really wanted it to be a John Kramer story, so they set it between Saw and Saw 2,
which makes sense.
So I'd say once you know that, like watching the movie, it's pretty easy. It really is a pretty good standalone, as long as you know that Tobin Bell is John Kramer, Jigsaw, and that he has terminal cancer. The plot is that he travels to Mexico to get some experimental treatment. He has hope that they might be able to cure his cancer. And he goes there and he goes through the process of surgery, and then finds out after the fact that it was all a scam. And so then it's a matter of him doing his Jigsaw thing with all of the people who betrayed him. So like it's a very personal story for Jigsaw
and realistic. I think people go some places, they don't get the right surgery they want. So I mean, that's a pretty scary situation of itself, to kind of be scammed into that situation, and then gotta be careful who you're scamming.
And in the Saw franchise has always been about morality. Like Jigsaw's whole thing is the people that he has tormented are people who did bad things, or they had morally questionable characters, and so he put them in a situation where they had the chance to escape. And it wasn't him doing this to them, it was them doing it to themselves, and is how he kind of justifies it or spins it. But because this is all really centered around John Kramer and things that have happened to him, it's a little bit different and stands separately from the rest of the Saw franchise in that way. And it's pretty good. I mean, I feel like I didn't have super high expectations going into it. It was better than it had any right to be. Tobin Bell's really good in it. This is a character he's been portraying for almost 20 years on screen. And so to have him get like a true spotlight in the franchise, I thought was really nice. And the actual games that are shown are pretty good. They're a lot of I was squirming in my seat, with some of the gore. You got to be a fan of gore. And
how
just
gory
kind of
is it? Like on a level from 1 to 10, like how is it like disturbing is it?
When the movie starts, like the first half of it, it's kind of like, man, this doesn't really feel like a Saw movie. Like you don't get as many of those things. And then in the second half, it goes from a 1 to a 10 real fast. I mean, you get people having to hack off their own limbs and, perform craniotomies on themselves, like all kinds of insane stuff as part of these traps. And so definitely not for the faint of heart. There's some intense gore here. I'd put it at a 10. It's pretty effective when it gets down to it. But like I said, the first half of the movie, it's really strange. You're like, this isn't a Saw movie. This is a guy who's going on an emotional journey trying to cure his own cancer, and then it becomes a Saw movie. And you're like, oh, okay, there it was. So yeah, but that being said, I liked the story that it told, and I think maybe the fact that I had low expectations helped, but I ended up having a pretty good time and thinking that it was pretty solid. Which, you know, you can't always be said for the 10th entry in a franchise. I'll say this, it is not the worst 10th entry of a franchise to come out this year. There is a 10th entry of a franchise that came out earlier this year that I found to be really not good, and it also had an X in the title.
About family? Was it about family as well?
It was about family. It was.
Well, that's good to hear that, you know, Saw can redeem itself, and Drew's full review is on nerdtropolis.com. Quite the transition we're about to do from Saw to Pause. And Drew said he saw Paw Patrol, and everyone's you kind of, you know, we had Barbenheimer, and I guess now we have Saw Patrol this weekend, kicking off the first, you know, day of October today. People getting into spooky season with Saw and some other things, but now we got some family stuff. We got Paw Patrol, and I believe you didn't go alone to see the Paw Patrol movie, did you?
I did not. So I did not do the proper Saw Patrol double feature. You know, I didn't see Saw X and Paw Patrol, the Mighty Movie is actually the full title of it. I didn't see them back to back. I did go, I have, you know, on the record, I have a 3-year-old daughter. And so we went to take her to go see Paw Patrol, the Mighty Movie. And I mean, it's Sean, you've actually been on the record as saying you liked the first Paw Patrol movie that came out on Paramount Plus.
I've never seen Paw Patrol, never watched anything Paw Patrol. I know what it is. I've seen toys. I've seen clips here and there, like as in just passing by on like YouTube, just seeing them pop up. But I've never seen a Paw Patrol movie. I watched that feature film, but I watched it at home on Paramount Plus, and I loved it. I thought it looked really good. I thought the animation's really great. It's the Avenger. It's Dog Avengers, you know, to me, and they have Avengers Tower. It's like kind of cool, and I loved everyone's vibrant colors and their vehicles, and it was pretty rad.
So in this sequel movie or this new movie, you know, they're pretty self-aware, and they joke in the movie about how, you know, instead of calling the police, you call the Paw Patrol, and these 6 dogs or 7 dogs show up to save the day, and they all have kind of their various skills. And in the movie, they're even like, just don't question it, you know. And that's it, right? It's a kids movie, it's a kids franchise, and this is for younger kids, to be clear. So that being said, they go the Avengers route in this movie, and there's a, you know, like an asteroid that comes in from outer space that has like these crystals as part of it. And when the Paw Patrol gets these crystals, each one of them gets a different power, different superpower. And that's why they call themselves in this one, the Mighty Pups. And the superpowers they get are each kind of in line with what their skill is outside of that. Like Marshall, who's a little Dalmatian firefighter dog. You know, he gets a crystal and he gets fire powers, like he can shoot fireballs out of his paws. And Chase, the police dog, you know, he gets super speed. And Rubble, who's like the construction worker dog, he can turn into like a little, you know, he's almost like Sonic the Hedgehog, like he rolls and destroys things. He becomes like a little wrecking ball. And Sky, the girl on the team, you know, she gets super strength and can fly, so she gets arguably the best powers. You know, so it's that's it, right?
That
like
sounds
that's what
fun.
you're
I'm not
going to see.
lie. I'm excited to watch this movie. I'm not gonna lie. That seems so cool.
It's there's a villain who's voiced by Taraji P. Henson, and the pups gotta stop her and use their newfound powers and their friendship. And, you know, to be honest, I thought it was going in a direction of like, oh, they're gonna find out that they don't need these superpowers to save the day. No, they keep their superpowers. Like that seems like a thing moving forward. I don't know if I'm not familiar enough with the show. My daughter only watches it sparingly to know as part of the canon if they get superpowers in the show. Not that we need to get into Paw Patrol canon on this show, but yeah, I'll put it this way. It's an 1.5-hour movie, and my 3-year-old daughter sat through the whole thing and was entertained by it. So
that's all that
says something for parents who want to take their kids to a movie, especially with the lack of kids movies that have been out. But there's a lot of kids movies coming out in the future. Like we saw trailers for the new Trolls movie. We saw the new trailer for Wish, which is the new Disney animated musical.
Migration.
Migration. We saw a trailer for Migration from Illumination. So yeah, there's a lot of decent looking animated features coming out between now and the end of the year. So we'll be back at the movies with my daughter here soon.
That's good. So is this better than the first film, you think, or on par, or how was it?
On par.
It was on par.
Probably on par. Yeah, I didn't sit and watch the first movie in a theater like I did this one, but we did watch it on Paramount Plus. Like my daughter watched it when it was on then. But yeah, I mean it's fine, and for me, about the time when I was kind of over it, the movie ends, so it doesn't overstay its welcome. It's fine, and I like superpower stuff enough anyway that I can watch little dogs have powers and be satisfied. And the thing with this movie that's shocking, Sean, is I don't know if you've looked at the box office totals for this weekend. Now. But all the predictions were that Saw X was going to be number one at the box office this weekend, and Paw Patrol: The Mighty Movie actually overtook it and made $23 million domestic, while Saw X only made $18 million. So yeah, I was really shocked. Impressive. I did contribute to that over the weekend, but yeah, I was shocked to see it.
Yeah, so that's 47 million global for Paw Patrol, and Saw X was only at 29 million global, which, I mean, that's a pretty big difference. And surprisingly, go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say the main thing though is that Saw X only had a budget of 13 million and it's already made $30 million. So, it's going to chug along and probably continue to make more money this month, especially leading up to Halloween. So Saw X is looking to be pretty profitable for the studio, regardless of the fact that it came in second place at the box office this weekend.
No, easily. And obviously, we're about to talk about The Creator, which came in third place domestically with 14 million, but worldwide it came with 32. So edging out Saw X globally, has about 4 million, roughly almost 4 million extra internationally than domestic. So it did pretty well internationally.
I know you reviewed this one for the site, so I want you to take the lead. But this one, this is. I'll just say this: of those three, this is my favorite.
Yeah, I love sci-fi, but there's been a lot of hits and misses with sci-fi over even the past decade. And it's a genre that really doesn't get much respect. And when it comes to creating movies, I feel like a lot of it's cash grabs and stuff like that. But when you get a talented person like Gareth Edwards, I loved his Godzilla film. I loved his Rogue One Star Wars film. So, he has the talent to deliver really great blockbusters. And I really love The Creator. And one of the reasons why is I picked up on so many things from other films that he even admits to. Like, this pays homage to so many sci-fi films, and you can see those scenes play out from you. But like, this film gives you Aliens vibes, ET vibes, Blade Runner, even like the AI artificial intelligence movie that came out, I think maybe early 2000 or something like that. But there's also a dozen other movies that the creator takes from, which is awesome. So I love that it takes from sci-fi classics, and he's just kind of a love letter to sci-fi films he grew up with. And it tackles AI, which is so important now these days, what's going on. And I just thought the film looked great on the big screen. The visuals were stunning. The performances by John David Washington were great. The story was really good. It wasn't amazing or anything like that, but a lot of heartfelt moments in that. And I thought the pacing was pretty good. It did drag a little bit lengthwise, but you get some quiet moments, but then you get the action, and the action does live up to what it is. And you add that with Hans Zimmer's score, which I did not know was Hans Zimmer, but I was like, why does it sound so good? And that's due to Hans Zimmer. So, I mean, you have almost a winning formula with this movie. And I feel like it's not getting as much love as it should be. Maybe because we have so many movies coming out this year, but this is probably one of the best sci-fi movies I've seen. Also, that has a little bit of originality to it that we've seen in a very long time.
I'm totally with you. It's a tough world out there right now for original sci-fi or non-IP sci-fi. And I thought this was really great. And you mentioned Gareth Edwards' past movies like Godzilla and Rogue One, and I'm less enthusiastic about those than I think you are. And the creator to me was like the proving ground for Gareth Edwards. I'm like, yes, I'm all in on this because I really enjoyed it. And I agree with everything you said. Like, I think it has some pacing issues and I think the story's not perfect. But what did capture me was the world building and the effects and how good everything looked. Like, I was just totally there in that world the whole time. And I'm looking here at the budget, and the reported budget on this movie is like $80 million. And it blows my mind that this movie can look so good and the effects can look so good for that price, when like some of these Marvel and DC movies that cost 3 to 4 times as much as this movie to make, and they don't look nearly as good. So it just shows, I don't know. I'm not an expert on it, but I mean, the creator looked amazing. All the robot effects looked so real. The android effects looked incredible. And just the variety of robots and androids and buildings. And I loved I'm going to forget what it's called now. The giant ship, the Nomad, that's in the sky. It's got constantly a looming presence in the movie. I loved its design, and I thought it was really, really great. And I think John David Washington's a star. I love him in these big budget movies like in Tenet and, or I should say, like big blockbuster movies, in Tenet and this. And I think he's a great leading man, and continue giving him a platform to perform as far as I'm concerned. But yeah, for a movie where, the story maybe isn't its strongest suit, it's still so great and riveting and emotional, just because it looks so amazing.
Yeah, emotional story as well at times. That's why without that emotional aspect to it, I think the story would have fell flat. But you have John David Washington with a great performance. At times, I was like, that sounds like Denzel in a couple of moments that I was watching.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of sound like his dad in some of the moments, which I guess he just picks up on when you're raised by Denzel Washington. It was great. But yeah, $80 million budget, but making it look like almost a $500,000 movie. Come on, Marvel, DC, everyone else, like, you have a $200 million budget and you can see stuff that looks like video games. I didn't feel anything fake in this one. All of it was believable. I'm trying to think of a moment where I'm like, that doesn't look good. Everything looked great.
My favorite thing, and I don't think this is a big spoiler, but I absolutely loved the robots that run, and they're like a running bomb that they run and then would stop. Love that. Just loved it.
They're suicide bombers.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I don't, not that. Just the design of the robots.
Yeah,
they almost look like these running explosive barrels.
But it looks
so
good. Yeah, that's CGI, but it actually looks good. And there's a human element to it too, which I thought was very strange in that moment. And that's where I'm saying it's about AI, about robots, but there's a lot of emotion and personality amongst everybody, from the humans to the AI, the synths, whatever they call themselves. I mean, it's just so much going on here. I love that. A pretty good balance, and the world building for sure. I'm curious to see if this is a one and done, and maybe Gareth Edwards would deliver maybe something else in this world, or he just comes up with something new. I can see he's kind of like emerging as a Christopher Nolan-esque type filmmaker to me after seeing this.
Yeah, I'm like, my initial thought is like, go make more original sci-fi stuff if this is what you exceed with. Because like Rogue One, I had some issues with just like its pacing and story, but that was a movie that looked really good. And there's a lot of behind the scenes stories as to how much of that movie Gareth Edwards really did get to direct. And that's you could do a whole podcast on that. But that being said, this just, everything about this really, really worked for me. And for me, what makes really good sci-fi is when it starts off and it's kind of setting up its world and where it's going. At first, you start to think, am I going to lose the thread here? Like, is this going to be too much? And then it never is. And I was able to stick with it, and I understood the logic of the movie. And to me, that makes good sci-fi. And so on that alone is why this really succeeded for me as a new original sci-fi film.
Yeah. And the one movie that just came into mind, do you remember is it called The Golden Child with Eddie Murphy?
I've not seen it.
Oh, you should watch it. I think that's where I'm getting vibes of it, of like there's a young kid AI in this film that kind of needs protection. That's in the trailers and stuff like that. But Golden Child is very esque like that with Eddie Murphy. I think so. If I remember, I have to rewatch the Golden Child, but that's one movie just popped in my head. So I think Garrett Edwards has moshed so many movies and mixed up so many movies into this film. It's actually really cool to see things if you can pick up on. If you can name all the different films that he has decided to use as influence, it's pretty awesome. And it's a solid sci-fi. I give it 4.5 out of 5 stars just because it's been a while since we've had a quality sci-fi film that obviously was not like an IP type film. So fresh.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. I think I on my Letterboxd score, I think I gave it a 4 out of 5. So I'm right there with you, an 8 or 9 out of 10 for me personally.
Yeah, a good one. And I think we got tons of movies to look forward to and shows too. Hopefully, Drew and I will be talking about some TV shows as well as things are coming up. Speaking of Gareth Edwards and filming the Godzilla, where we'll be watching hopefully the new Godzilla series, Monarch, which is coming to Apple TV Plus. So hopefully we can talk about that in a future podcast next week. What are we talking about? We got episode number 13.
Hoping to see the new Exorcist movie, because that comes out next 13th. Weekend, and then I'll see if we can see the other release that came out wide this weekend. It got a limited release before, but it was wide this weekend that we didn't get to see was Dumb Money. And from looking at the box office, nobody saw it. So it's not just us. It unfortunately only made like 3.5 million. I mean, this was a true flop. Which is a shame because the trailers looked really good to me, and it seems like it's gotten decent reviews. It's just, for me, it's like being at the festival and everything else, I just haven't had a chance to catch it yet, not for lack of wanting to. So it's a shame that nobody else seemed to see it, but I am going to try to see it so we can talk about it on a future show, even if it's not our main review.
Yeah, and so we can say Dumb Money did not make any dumb money. They didn't make no money
right
at the theaters. But it's October. We have a lot to talk about. We have The Exorcist. Five Nights at Freddy's also comes out. We may talk about Loki when that hits, and the Monarch show. What else can you think of?
I did get to see at Fantastic Fest, I got to watch the first 2 episodes of The Fall of the House of Usher, which is the new Mike Flanagan horror series that'll be coming out on Netflix soon. And all I'll say is that the first 2 episodes I thought were really solid and did make me want to finish that series. So I know that we are the Moviegoers Society podcast, and we stick to movies, but some of these like really cinematic miniseries like Monarch and House of Usher and Loki and some of these other things will probably be worth tackling on the show too. We'll probably give some time to those.
I think I did watch a couple of Usher, and I couldn't get into it. I did in the beginning, and then it could just been bad timing on my end being bombarded with stuff. You got to sit down and watch these things. And I'm gonna be honest, I don't remember if this one was like that, but it's really hard to watch screeners at home because they have the largest watermarks on them. And I don't watch like I'm getting the cinematic vibe when you see all these, numbers and stuff like that. I understand why they do it for piracy, which piracy is a horrible thing. But it does take away when you're seeing your name in giant letters in the middle of the screen or in the corner. It is pretty difficult. But hopefully you can watch also Totally Killer, and we can talk about that briefly.
That'll be a good one to talk about during
80s vibes,
spooky season.
It's like Halloween / Back to the Future. Speaking of Back to the Future, we're going to plan a Back to the Future Day episode. We just got to figure out if we're going to do it before that day or after that day. It depends which recording day we're going to do it. And we might have a special guest for that one, but that's coming up on, I think that's October 21st is Back to the Future Day, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, that'll be exciting.
That'll be exciing. Anytime we can talk about Back to the Future, I'm all in. I'm up for that.
Same. It's not like I need an excuse to rewatch it, but I will anyways.
No. So we got a lot to talk about, but if you haven't yet, check out our previous episodes of the Moviegoer Society and check out my podcast, Nerdtropolis Mayors Presents, where I interview directors and actors and everyone else who wants to talk to me from Hollywood on the Nerdtropolis Podcast Network. And once again, Drew, where can they find you?
You can find me at Drew Munhausen on all the different social medias. Follow me on Letterboxd to see all the different things I'm watching, and weekly over at the Fresh Out the Podcast.
A lot of good stuff coming your way. So thanks again for joining us for another episode of the Moviegoer Society. Once again, I am Sean Tajipour, the mayor of Nerdtropolis, and we will see you at the movies.